Upstate New York's Watkins Glen International Raceway has a global reputation in a variety of different venues and types of racing, from open wheel all the way through to sports car endurance racing. And we are here for this weekend, and we are showcasing today the Pirelli GT4 America's SprintX Championship, along with the Eastern Regional Championship, in an hour competition for two drivers of SprintX competition presented by CrowdStrike. And here is the starting lineup, a good field on hand for this round of the championship. And down and amongst all those cars is Ryan Marine. Ryan, what are the stories from pit lane?
Hey, Greg, thanks so much. Well, I think one of the stories coming into the weekend was the hottest team and driver combination in SprintX competition. I think that was Stephen Cameron Racing. We have, of course, Sean Quinlan and Greg Leafou sharing this BMW, and they start again in race number 1 yesterday, especially Greg. When he got in the cockpit, they just came to the front. He was fighting his way through traffic the entire race, just tore through that traffic, ultimately taking the race win yesterday. It was a dramatic race, a lot of fun. They got to start further back than they would like. They're all the way back in the 4th row, but Sean's pace has been improving as the year has gone along. We know what Greg can do behind the wheel. I think this orange BMW is going to be one to watch.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, it was a sparkling drive that Greg Leafou put together here as we take a look at the lineup. But Carl Whitmer, team with Frank Gannett, put in an amazing lap to take the pole. Jan Halen, a Top Flight Pro driver as well, on the outside of that front row. Then Christian Shimshak in the Murillo Mercedes, Trent Hinman. Calvin Fish, as we take a look at the starting lineup here. Second race of these doubleheader weekends generally is when it's stacked with the pros, the fast drivers in the programs. This field, in that regard, is deep.
It really is going to be fascinating here at the start of this one to see all the pros going up against it. But then you've got guys like James Safronis, Vesco Kozarov, who actually reversed their strategy with equal driver grading. You make that choice on who's going to start race 1 and finish race 2. We'll get them in at the end. So for their co-drivers, keep it clean, keep it towards the sharp end, and let those guys go to work, particularly if you get any kind of reset with a full course yellow. But I think the real story is our championship leaders in the overall SprintX competition are mired way at the back of the pack. Jason Hart never got to put a lap together in qualifying his segment because Matt Travers had a technical issue early on. They're in damage control. They're seeing their points lead dwindle. It's down to 20 points now coming into this round of the championship, and they start at the very tail of this field today.
Yeah, and who is it that's second in the points? Ryan was talking about them. Leafou and Quinlan, who have been rocket fast in that pairing here in that orange and blue BMW as the field is out on the first of 2 pace and parade laps. Now, the clock will start after the first one is completed on this slightly cooler day. They've asked for a second pace lap to make sure that the tires are up to temp and pressure before they get unleashed for an hour of competition here at Watkins Glen. So we're watching Carl Whitmer in the G3 racing, Ian Lacey racing Mustang. What a lap he put together. Obviously, he is really enjoying wheeling that big iron around here, even though it's in GT4 spec.
Yes, I think certainly the team has got to grips with that Ford Mustang GT4 platform. First year with that car, moving over from the Ginetta last year, and it's really taken them just 2 or 3 rounds. I mean, they weren't slow by any stretch with Staveley and Frank Gannett, but suddenly they found the sweet spot. Carl, only his second weekend in that car, puts it on the pole, and with that he has the championship lead, with McAleer and Raphael having a few drive-through problems yesterday, pit lane speed infraction, so it's really established his lead now a little bit further. It's now up to 8 points. It was 2 points going into the race here yesterday.
The guy that's starting with him in the front row, we watched him yesterday. Jan doesn't have a lot of time racing an SRO World Challenge type competition, and he didn't miss the beat. You wouldn't expect have any problems with his speed, but he was aggressive. He was after it. He was working people over. He was shutting doors. Jan's a racer.
He really is, but I love the way he raced. He raced hard but clean. Unfortunately, they had a technical issue towards the end of the race. I'm not quite sure. We didn't have a chance to catch up with that team overnight to see what it was, but obviously the car looks good. It's out there right now, and he'll obviously be giving it his all, and his teammate did a wonderful job here yesterday as well, Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie Belliardo is a bit of a revelation here, I think. Doesn't have a lot of racing experience, but certainly has some natural speed, and that's great to see. And how great is it to have a team like RS1 in this paddock? I mean, it's great that they've decided to come and check it out.
Yeah, they're a quality organization. They always have very fast cars. I think their engineering staff is really strong there in terms of identifying what makes a Porsche Cayman quick. And as we think about Caymans, there's a quick one right there.
Boy,
Yesterday they had another win, their third of the year for Brynjolfsson and Trent Hinman. And that's actually done good things for them in the points. And they're now back up in the mix as well.
Yeah, they're very strong. It's a great pairing. Brynjolfsson can be very fast, especially when he's on. And Trent Hinman is simply one of the best, in my opinion. He just is very, very solid. Getting back to RS1, I think we got to figure out a way for them to enter a second car with a certain driver, just because it's so fun to say SRO GT. We used to race with them for a long time.
Yes.
So it'd be fun to have them in the paddock, obviously, as we are getting ready to go. You see another, that bright yellow car there. That's always nice to have BGB Motorsports back in the field. And there is that number 47 you were talking about. Boy, I'll tell you, Jason's going to be starting the car today. He's very, very quick, but a lot of very quick drivers in front of him.
That's a team that's had 6 wins on the season. They went on a tear, won the first 5 straight, then had a little bit of a lean spell, which means they're still on the podium.
Exactly.
But a lot of work to do here today.
And we'll see how that all plays out. Lights are out on the safety vehicle as they are getting set for this one. And looking forward to having this one go green. The clock has started, as you can see, based on the regulations here and the time frame that's allowable for the track. So the clock starts, but they are taking this one additional installation lap, if you will, is to make sure that those tires are up to temperature, scrubbed clean, ready to go racing. But watching the field, looking at the names behind the wheel of these cars as they come through, some awfully good drivers. I mean, in that red Mercedes is a guy named Prima.
Yeah, ex-Audi factory pilot, and just a ton of experience. And just a reminder on the SprintX rules with the 1-hour format for GT4 cars. Pit start window opens 25 minutes in and ends 35 minutes into this race.
And that's strictly driver change, however.
That's right. No refueling, no tire change unless it's an emergency situation.
Which puts a pretty big emphasis on the starting driver in each of the races on the weekend, giving the co-driver tires and a car that's still got something in it.
You got to manage that, so don't just go for it to get that track position early and turn the car over to your teammate with nothing to fight with at the end.
All right, field coming up and over the rise, and then dropping down into the heel of the boot. That is that hill on the right there is one of the best viewing areas at a racetrack I've ever seen. You see him coming through the laces, exiting the toe, dipping into the heel, up into turn number 9. And we're about to go racing. Field is packing up. The lights are out on the safety car. It is time for round 12 of the National and round 8 of the Eastern Pirelli GT4 America SprintX Championship to unfold here at what has turned into a beautiful afternoon at Watkins Glen. Weather was a bit of a concern, and at least at this stage, it is gorgeous. So we are getting ready to go racing. Whitmer leading him around, Halen on his shoulder as they come through the final turn. Clock has started, but green flag about to fly here at Watkins Glen. Big field into a tricky turn 1. This should be interesting. Green flag flies, Whitmer gets away clean. Halen immediately moves over a little bit, and watch Hinman maybe trying to go around the outside, and down to the inside comes Shimshak.
Shimshak thought about it, then he gave it up early. That was a wise move there. A lot of time left on the clock here. Don't want to get too racy and have contact. There's a real funneling effect there down into turn 1.
Everybody thus far making it through, although we've still got cars 2, 3 abreast as they head into the S's. That's a difficult place to make that work. Everybody being very mindful of everybody else. Great respect compiled with some good aggression here. It looks like Leia Fouge making a move on Keegan. That BMW on that Panos already. Getting race. He's around the outside. Beautiful move.
Well, if he can put in the sort of performance he did yesterday, I expect him to go straight to the front because the BMW has got a great setup on it. It's got a really strong platform here at Watkins Glen, and Gregory has a lot of confidence in the machine right now. There he goes, looking down to the inside of Shimshak.
I think he got him. He came up and it was very aggressive down the inside. Oh, he's still, Shimshak fighting him off. It's a nice piece of driving by Shimshak, and he actually noses back in front. And it's Keegan.
Christian's a great racer. I mean, he'll give you a little bit of room, but it doesn't mean this, you've sealed the deal. You've got to earn it.
And then behind them, there is the number 2. That's Andrew Davis. And Andrew, obviously a very accomplished driver as well. That's what I mean about this field being stacked. The second of the Steve Cameron BMWs. That's Tom Dyer getting a run here. He and
Andretti had a little bit of contact late in the going yesterday, but Dyer, one of the strongest GT racers that you'll find. Great to see him back in action here. Had a bit of a lean spell in terms of staying busy, but whenever he shows up, he gives it 1,000,000% and is very, very quick.
And then you got McAleer and Foley duking it out here. Foley there in the Flying Lizard, blue and silver Porsche right behind him. Stephen McAleer and the Raphael and Associates, another of the great BMW programs here from Classic BMW. And here we go, big move, late move again by Dyer. Recognizes that Keegan was not going to give it to him and tucks right back in again.
McAleer dives down the inside of Robbie Foley. And you see Prima looking for a way through as well. BMW's looking super strong here this weekend. Up through the S's. A little bit of sunshine out now. Now Halen puts the pressure on. Whitmer for the lead.
Whitmer defending way down to the inside. Halen pops to the outside, just not quite able to get it done. Hinman there in third. I think it's important to point out that the RS1 team took a look at this track and what car would be the better one. Opted to go for the older Porsche Cayman model. Just felt that this track, there were some things about it that might make it a slightly better vehicle, and they've been right at the sharp end of things from the drop of the first green.
Certainly got the magic sauce here this weekend. It's been very quick.
We've seen Matt Brabham earlier in the season in some of the sprint races do some amazing stuff with it as well. There is Leia Fouge. Got to, Shimshak took a look at him and now has dropped off and hasn't been able to close back up on him again. And
Keegan has there in a good little battle.
I was going to say, got a mirror full right now of Davis.
Up front, things settling in. Shimshak's not going away in that Mercedes. Leofouge not making the impression he did in the second half of the race yesterday. But a lot of time on the clock. Still 20 minutes plus before they can hit pit lane.
Well, just the way that Leofouge tends to race. I mean, yesterday you would think that that car was set up to get stronger as the race unfolds, and I wonder if near the end of his stint, if we might see a little bit more pace out of him than we have. Oh, look at this,
deep on the brakes. Picked up the drive, just dives down to the inside.
Look at Whitmer.
Gives Whitmer some racing room there up and over the curb. The Mustang's going to muscle the Cayman up into the S's.
Hinman in that bright yellow Volt Lighting Park Place Motorsports Porsche right there in third. Shimshak right behind. One thing we've seen with that Mercedes, particularly the one from Murillo Racing, is it doesn't seem to really change much in terms of it doesn't fall off a whole lot. It's really comfortable for the drivers for the entirety of the race. Another look here at that move.
Deep on the brakes, hard in the ABS, just plows it down to the apex, but then gets a little bit of racing room, which means he can't go as much speed through the corner and gives the position back to Whitmer. You're talking about the Murillo Racing Mercedes Center doesn't change much. I think it means it's quick every time it's on the racetrack.
Exactly, yeah. It's fast at every venue, and it's fast throughout a stint as well. That's one of the things the drivers absolutely love about it.
Tom Dyer, he's on a bit of a charge there, currently running in the 6th position, 3rd in the Pro-Am class, chasing down his teammate, Leofouge.
We know Tom's awfully quick, and boy, I'll tell you what a lineup that, as Ryan talked about at the top end of things, that Steve Cameron's put together here. Carl Whitmer, again, you know, you just grin when you talk about Whitmer leading here just because of the story of how he ended up in this car after starting the season in a different car, running into some problems, not being able to make a race. Frank Gannett and the Ian Lacey team, you could see that Carl was just beside himself, particularly at his home race in Canada. And Frank said, you know, let's talk to Ian, see if we can get us entered into the Eastern Championship, which he was leading the points in, Carl was. And they made it happen, and they promptly went out and put on a great show, and to the point that even Ford got interested in this program, and you got to love that. Yeah, it's really cool to see him get the support within the paddock. He's recognized as one of the young up-and-coming drivers. And even though he has the championship lead, it's an 8-point lead over McAleer and Raphael. I think that team cannot lose sight of the fact that Brynjolfsson and Hinman are only 12 points behind with their 3rd win of the year here yesterday. So they're very much in this championship hunt. Carl, it's an interesting story too. He's one of the multiple Kuno Whitmer brothers. Kuno, the oldest, who of course has spent time as a BMW factory driver at points over the years. And Carl, a little later to the racing table than some of the other brothers, because they're all from Canada, obviously. They all love hockey, but Carl was really good at it, played some pro hockey in Europe, but decided, you know what, I miss racing. Came back and decided to dedicate himself to that, and has gotten himself to this point now. So cool story there. Another good story in that second of the NOLA Sport cars. Good story coming from a bad incident, if you will, at number 46 with Guy Cosmo and Patrick Byrne. Originally, they were supposed to be running a Rentec car. On the way here, the hauler had a big incident. The driver's okay. That's the best news, but it was scary at the time. But they couldn't get the car here. NOLA Sport had their second car here that wasn't being driven. Again, just that camaraderie in a racing paddock. Everybody worked together to get those guys behind the wheel and racing.
Really is, and his teammate for the weekend, he's having a nice charge here. Jason Hart, another really strong competitor in this GT4 field.
Boy, he is, isn't he? Up from near dead last in the field, almost halfway through it here, and it's early in the going here at Watkins Glen. Hart up to 13th at this stage. That is a huge charge through the pack.
Yeah, it's damage limitation at this stage of the weekend.
And you have to wonder if Matt Travis went to him and said, look, if you have to use up a little bit more to get up in there, go for it. I'll deal with what you leave me. But we got to get some ground made up, because Hart's just been flying.
Well, such a strong season. Yeah. I mean, he's one of these drivers who probably a little bit underrated. I mean, he's certainly come on our radar by the fact that they've been dominating the early part of this championship season and continue to be super competitive, even though the racing gods have not been in their favor of late.
Yeah, and he's the official NOLA Sport data and driving coach, and really does a fabulous job with that. So deserves rides like this. There's no question about it. But I have to say, the guy who's got fast lap right now, Cal, is Andrew Davis, the number 2 from Global Motorsports Group. Great lap.
Yeah, he's pretty bullish. He did a nice test day here the other day with the GMG group with Neville Agassi, the engineer. They felt they made a lot of progress with the Audi, just trying to figure out both ends of the car. It's always a compromise in terms of fixing one end versus the other in terms of understeer and loose condition, but they felt they were going in the right direction. Switched on the brake pads on the rear, just felt that they were a bit too aggressive, and that was a nice change, and started to get the car moving in the right direction. But I think for he and Jason Bell, that is a great team. I'd love to see Jason utilize Andrew's talents for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Jason, when he's got the right instruction and the right co-driver that really works with him and shares data, he picks it up very quickly. And I mean, you look at the first race of the season, Alec Udell worked with him on. They ended up with a podium finish, and Jason was up on the wheel. And I have to say, speaking of Alec Udell, today, or much earlier today, obviously, but in Europe, he and his co-driver Simon Knapp clinched the European GT4 championship. So absolutely great story.
It is, because he couldn't find his way back into the paddock here on a full-time basis, so he spread his wings a little bit, went over there and did a phenomenal job, as you would expect, because Alec is an amazing young talent.
Huge battling here at the deeper part of the pack, but great racing throughout. The number 46 of Guy Cosmo right there in that Porsche, and the white Jannetta of Warren Dexter. They are having an absolutely huge scrap here, and they're down in the order just a little bit, but don't tell them. That's fabulous, running for 14th, but swapping positions left and right. Great fun here to watch this big field in Pirelli GT4 America SprintX competition.
Dex has been really quick in that Jannetta this year. Has put in some amazing performances. So just goes to show you, Guy Cosmo with his resume, but he's battling a little bit deeper in this field, and it's still not easy.
No, not at all. And look at this here. I mean, Whitmer has been able to hang on to the lead, but Halen just relentless in his attack.
Yeah, it looks like Halen's Porsche is handling a little bit better than the Mustang right now, so Whitmer just trying to keep it together.
Just saw Halen take that look going into the toe, and you could see that little wiggle in the car, and I don't think that was brake. I think it was do I, don't I, do I? No, I don't. You had to make those decisions pretty quickly here so you don't lose momentum coming out, right?
For sure, it's all a balance there in terms of picking and choosing your moment to go. I will say, I mean, when you come from Europe, the driving standards over there are a little bit more aggressive, and I thought maybe Jan would have been carving people up here a little bit on his return to the championship. So I think he's driven very respectfully in some tight quarter racing over the last couple of days.
And after Leifouge had attacked early on Šimšek and then fallen back a little bit, he's right back on the rear deck of Šimšek, who is equally close to Trent Hinman. And you can see the margin, though. Hinman's back a little bit now of this Whitmer-Halen battle. They are just flying.
And Halen looks to the inside again. He takes it in super deep. Little bobble there right at apex. Doesn't give Whitmer quite as much room this time. Even so, it just seems like the torque of that Mustang just off that corner allows him to then clear the Cayman by the time they climb up through the S's.
You got to be impressed with Whitmer's willingness to just stick it around the outside. And that's one of those corners that if the guy does run you a little wide, you can go up and over that curve. And it still might be an effective route, as Whitmer just showed. Ooh, Leifouge very close to Šimšek back in that battle for fourth.
We know as we grow, get ever closer to that pit stop window, about 10 minutes away from some possible early pitters, that Halen would love to get in front, maybe pull a bit of a gap and make that task for the service crew a little bit easier. Here we see the move down into turn one. Just watch this time. Doesn't give him quite as much room coming off. He's over and over the curve there, and Whitmer's even further out of bounds, but still makes the move stick.
Just works the outside, climbing the hill. Oh boy, well, I'll tell you though, that margin, I mean, they had a pretty sizable margin back to Hinman, and suddenly that's just evaporated.
Well, we've seen that several times today. When you get a pairing start to duke it out a little bit, suddenly the lap time is being compromised, and the chasing pack is right on your heels. Almost got to be prepared to just follow each other for a couple of laps and establish a new buffer if you can.
Going back through the pack just a little bit, looking at some of the other competitors here that we'd be keeping an eye on, just because of the possibility of what they will be able to do when the co-driver steps in. John Allen, who will be turning over to Chris Wilson, a little farther back maybe than they would like to be. Same story with C.J. Moses, who will be turning over to James Safronis. And unfortunately, after a big incident in the sprint race, the Reardon Audi duo of Burton and Kozrov not able to take the start today. That's a tough one. They would have been a serious factor.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been very, very strong all weekend. Nearly got the victory yesterday. Just Leifouge's charge right at the end got him by Burton for the overall win. But nonetheless, Kozrov and Burton got the class victory, but they will not score points here today.
Through the inner loop. It's just interesting seeing where these two very different cars, yes, they're all GT4 homologated with the BOP and the like, but they're very different platforms in many ways, and just to see where each one has its strength. Might be pretty even by the time everybody crosses the timing beat, but how they do it can be very different.
Yeah, how they get there. And a lot of people just think about these pony cars, the GT4 Mustang. It's all about just sheer grunt and straightaway speed. That's not the case. They've built a lot of downforce into this new GT4 platform, so it brakes incredibly well. It handles well, but even so, I think the Porsche is a bit more nimble, as we're seeing displayed by Jan Halen behind the wheel of the 37 car.
Looks like Andrew Davis is after turning that string of very, very quick laps. I mean, he consistently is in the mid 156s. Last lap was a 56.8. That's the slowest one I've seen him put in for a little while, and it's driven right up onto the back here of Leifouge.
Well, Andrew's a master at this level of GT racing. He's simply one of the best. Such a nice young man, but very motivated, very focused at the same time. Don't mistake his kind demeanor for being easy on the racetrack. Oh, there's a pass for the lead there.
Yeah.
Halen's got around him. Didn't quite catch that. I'm not sure if that was coming into between 10 and 11.
Now the question is Halen was able to, it looked quite easily stay with Whitmer. Now we'll see if he's got the pace to be able to ease away, and he does so a little bit here.
That's what I'd love to do. You would have to imagine that the pros will stay in a little bit longer. So there'll be the later pit stops, you would imagine, no tire change, so you just want to maximize the fastest guy behind the wheel, with no disrespect to the lesser experienced co-drivers who'll be jumping in the majority of these cars.
Here's a look at how that pass unfolded. We're just a little wide there in that last turn.
Certainly the door was open and Jan was willing to fill it.
I wonder if Whitmer just couldn't get that transition to work as we're watching this battle, and Jan Halen now in the lead. Let's get down to the pits, Ryan.
Thanks, Greg. Tough break for Andretti Autosport, which was victorious in the sprint race earlier today, but unfortunately, Colin Mullen and Jared Andretti weren't able to make it out onto the track to start the second SprintX race. Colin, what has you guys standing here on the sidelines?
Yeah, well, this obviously isn't where we want to be right now, but just went to fire up the car and it won't start. So, yeah, it's just really unfortunate for the whole crew. They pulled an all-nighter to get both cars ready for today. We've been lacking a little bit of pace on the 36 all weekend compared to the 18, so we were swapping parts. We put the ECU on this one from the 18 car, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, we just can't get it fired up. So, yeah, it's heartbreaking for the whole team. They've worked tirelessly these past couple days to get the cars ready and figure out what's going on, but yeah, unfortunately, just never made it out to this one.
So sorry to see it. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, tough day for Andretti Autosport here in the SprintX category after a big win in sprint earlier. Battling continues throughout the field here in this SprintX round. And once again, Robbie Foley and Alexander Prima having a good run, and a nice move there. Warren Dexter slipping down underneath Guy Cosmo and picking up a spot as we go back to the front of the field. And boy, what we were talking about, Halen has been able to drive away just a little bit.
He really has. You see Hinman there defending that inside line. He must feel that he's vulnerable in the Cayman compared to the Mercedes and the BMWs that are chasing him. Look at this battle here.
Oh, what a move by Andrew.
McAleer in the fight.
Yep.
Getting back to that interview with Colin Mullen in terms of they worked all night. The crew did not get back to their hotel room, so it's been a brilliant effort by the Andretti Autosport team to get that sprint victory this morning for Jared Andretti. And they obviously felt, because of the pace was at the ECU, so it seems like that's bitten them. It looks like they must have taken the ECU off of the sprint car, thrown it on this one at the last minute, and suddenly they're not compatible. It's a bit of a shame.
Oh, yeah, and after, when you don't even sleep, and then you have something like that when the car start, and it started when they finished, otherwise they'd have still been working on it. So, yeah, that's got to be immensely frustrating. But McAleer really put a move onto Andrew Davis heading into the inner loop, and Davis just stayed parked right around the outside. Great respect, and by two very talented drivers. I mean, McAleer's doing some prototype racing these days as well.
Yeah, he's been going really well. Yeah. Busy boy, does a lot of coaching, really talented. The Scott has really found a nice home here in the U.S. with his racing. Just keeps leaping up the ladder.
Shimshak floating an awful lot of speed through that last turn. And Hinman feeling a little bit of pressure once again.
This battle is everywhere. Look at this. Robbie Foley, amazing young talent, going up against a much more experienced sports car driver in Alex Premat. And that is a battle for 12th and 13th. That shows the depth in this field.
Just exceptional. Up front, Halen continues to lead and stretch that margin out just a little bit, but great battles unfolding, including this one. We've been keeping an eye on it here. Foley and Prima. How about this one? Dyer now, and he is feeling some serious pressure. James Clay has run him down. Looks like Dyer really pushed hard early in that stint to get to the front, Cal, and he's faded just a little bit.
Yeah, car looks a little bit loose there, like he's struggling for grip. So, yeah, he was right up behind Leah Fuge in a battle for what was 5th position. And now he's dropped down the order to the bottom part of that top 10.
And behind them is Matt Keegan in the Panos Avezzano GT, the red, white, and blue Dr. Don Panos tribute livery. As they are players in the National Am Championship. In fact, leading in the points, Keegan and Preston Calvert.
I think that's the key, that you have to keep your eye on the ball in terms of that championship picture. I'm sure that Matt would like to get a little bit racy with these fellas, but he's leading his class, and it's all about consolidating. I mean, the main focus coming into this year for Matt Keegan was to win his first professional championship.
Yeah, and Preston obviously very keen to do that. Keegan, a big wiggle there as he carried a lot of speed, thinking about getting down underneath Clay, and decided to tuck back in. And coming up behind Keegan is Jason Hart. And Keegan right now resides in that 10th place. So that gives you an idea of just the drive that he has put together here, Jason Hart, from outside of the top 20, knocking on the door of 10th. As we are 5 seconds from that pit window opening, Cal.
Yeah, he'd love a reset, he'd love a full course yellow so the gap to the leaders is compressed, and then he can go to work, or his teammate Matt Travis can do so.
Robbie Foley hanging on here in front of Alex Prima. Foley, another guy who's been doing a lot of racing this year and having a lot of success in other series as well, so he's got some good mojo working for him.
He does. Had a big GT3 win north of the border just a couple of months ago.
Oh, look at the lead Halen's built. And I'll tell you what, he's turning over to Charlie Belliardo, and as we said, he doesn't have a huge racing CV, but he's got natural speed, and this could be a tough pairing today.
Just got to pray that they don't have any technical issues like they did yesterday, but so far so good. Jan Halen super patient there and getting the car to the front. And now he's taken off a little bit, which is ideal. Pit window is now open, as you can see.
And again, in this second of the doubleheader races, if you've got drivers of different ratings, the higher rated driver is the one who starts oftentimes, then you will see that driver stay out a little bit longer. In this one, just getting a little bit quicker times.
John Allen has jumped in, going to be switching over to Chris Wilson, so seeing some early pit stops here.
The pit window for this is 75 seconds for the stop.
Yep.
Including the transit time.
That should be pretty comfortable. All you're really doing is a nice, safe driver change, making sure everything's secure. It's just the timing of it and managing it. There's some software that they now have on the car, and a timer that will tell you when to release and how you're doing compared to that minimum time on pit lane. GMG Audi is in. CJ Moses, I think, has now hit pit lane. Going to turn it over to James Safronis, who had a nice early run going yesterday. Kind of hung with Kozarov, even though Kozarov was a bullet in qualifying. Safronis hung tough there in the early going yesterday.
Whitmer's got a little bit of room as he sits in second, still back to Hinman. Now Shimshak out to the inside, and I thought he was going to, it was a move on Hinman, but it was actually trying to not let Leah Fouge come by. Leah Fouge is back on the wheel, and he's got it because McAleer has caught him and is hounding him big time right now. McAleer having gone through on Andrew Davis.
And I believe I'm accurate. We didn't catch it on timing and scoring, but I heard last night that they actually had 2 drive-through penalties for pit lane speeding violations for the McAleer Raphael team there. So trying to bounce back here a little bit. Very tight in the championship points, of course, trying to chase down Whitmer.
Watching Shimshak feint to the inside just a little bit, heading into the heel of the boot, turn 8. Quite close enough. This is quite the queue here. Whitmer, Hinman, Shimshak, Leah Fouge, McAleer, Davis. That's a pretty stellar driver lineup in any series.
This is great racing. It's really intense. No one giving an inch, no one making any mistakes. It's a high grip racetrack. Just under 3.4 miles, but 11 very challenging turns. Just beautiful rhythm through this final sector here. Shimshak hits pit lane. That allows McAleer to get a bit of a run down this front straightaway.
By the way, just pointing out, look at that driver change time between Warren Dexter and Ben Anderson.
That's about as sweet as you want to get it.
75.009 seconds.
They need to tighten that up.
Yeah, slackers. Yeah, what a stop. And for those of you that follow all of the SRO action, in GT3, you're allowed to have this joker second you can apply. And one of two races. You can't do it in both. You don't have that here in GT4, so cutting it that close.
It's a mistake.
Yeah.
Let's call it as we see it.
All right.
It's beautiful, though.
Yeah. Great
Makes
to
you
see
feel good.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Hate to leave that time on the table.
All right. Now, Shimshak and Clay is in, turning over to a very fast Randy Mueller. Look at this now.
McAleer down to the inside.
Ooh, and
Whitmer's fading.
something happened there. I wonder if he just got forced out into the marbles and lost all the grip.
That's not ideal at this stage of the race. Now he's backing up a little bit further if he's just trying to regroup here, but definitely trouble here for Whitmer. That's not good news for Frank, and now he's going to be taking over the wheel there shortly.
Yeah, especially with McAleer being one of the cars to go through. Shimshak to Fosnot, 76.6, not bad.
Everyone's starting to get the hang of that, aren't they? As the season has progressed, we saw a lot of time left on the table early. McAleer, late move down to the inside. That was nice. To pull that off on someone like Trent Hinman, that is a beautiful move.
Yep, and you got to make it decisive, don't you? And he did. Boy, that was pretty.
You can squeeze another couple of laps out here before you hit pit lane.
And Whitmer is just dropping off this group significantly. That's more than just, I think, dirty tires.
Yeah, he's got an issue, I think.
And Prima once again, look at this. This has been a battle for this entire race. Foley, Prima, and Keegan.
Keegan hanging tough. And really quick in this Panos ever since he showed up last year, sharing the car with Ian James in SprintX competition. And he and Preston make a wonderful pairing for the championship charge this year.
Yeah, they're very strong AM pairing.
With that Stephen Cameron Racing BMW of Gregory Liafage, whether they made a little change there. It's not quite as sweet as it was yesterday. Boy, was that car just perfect.
Oh,
and he was in a rhythm, just caught the traffic nicely, caught the leader perfectly, got the run up the hill, and went to the lead on the final run through the inner loop.
McAleer right now just looking incredibly strong as well. Classic BMW entry. He'll be turning over to Justin Raphael, the Raphael and Associates BMW. Oh, going to spin somewhere off camera. Halen, of course, still out. Well, I'll tell you, the Clay to Mueller, they were a car that was right in the mix, and that was a stop that was not good. Huh.
It's not Halen.
It is. Oh, boy. The leader, Jan Halen. We heard it.
Yeah.
We didn't see it. Oh, boy.
If there's been some kind of a technical issue on the car, it's very rare to see him. And wisely, everyone dives to pit lane. You don't want to suddenly have a yellow come out, and that will throw a spanner in the works in terms of everyone's strategy. So everyone taking this opportunity to hit pit lane. Hinman going to be turning it over to Alan Brynjolfsson, who's already seen action here today. He should be up to speed quickly. And they've done some emergency servicing here with tires. If the series allowed them to do it, Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan?
Well, it's waiting to talk to Owen Hayes, who is the engineer for RS1. They're trying to assess the situation. We saw the leader, Jan Halen, go off track. I think they were as surprised as anyone. They were about to make their driver change. The good news is we're getting word that Jan has gotten out of the race car. That is good. But if you give us a moment, we'll see if we can grab a word with Owen and see if he knows any more than we do at this point. It had been a really solid weekend so far for this RS1 team, and we'll see. Owen, would you be able to chat with us here just a moment?
Yeah, sure.
Do you know what happened out there? Did Jan have any communication with you?
We just don't know what happened at the moment. Obviously, very disappointing for everybody. That was, one of those where we were in command. I just hope everything's all right. We have to find out. Don't know yet.
It's been a really successful weekend up to this point. The car's been on pace. As you come into this championship, are we going to see you more down the road?
I hope so. Let me be short and brief about it. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm doing quite a lot of programs at the moment, and yeah, I've had a blast this weekend. A really top-line professional team, and I'm very impressed.
Thank you very much. We hope to see Owen and the rest of the RS1 team in the SRO paddock moving forward. Owen mentioned being busy. These are his last 3 weekends. ADAC GT Masters in Germany, Intercontinental GT Challenge in Suzuka last weekend, and now here in Watkins Glen. But a heartbreak for them for sure here in race number 2 of the weekend.
Yeah, unfortunate development, but boy, nice travel schedule that he's put together.
Yeah, and he used to be part of the Porsche Motorsports official team, and now he's kind of gone out on his own and is being in contract with many of the top Porsche teams, as you would expect. His wealth of knowledge and expertise, and just a great personality too. I really enjoy having a chat with Owen. He's very approachable, totally understands the game, totally on top of things. Involved with the Porsche Spider LMP2 program many years ago. Has seen it all and done it all at many levels.
The pit window is now officially closed, and we see James Safronis behind the wheel and taking it after Justin Raphael. I think now interesting to see just how this all plays out, but the pit window is closed here at Watkins Glen. Just have to wait now for the timing to recycle and a full lap to complete here. It looks like it may have been Fosnot.
I think Brynjolfsson's out front.
That got through. Oh no, tire for the Matt Travis would have just picked that car up.
Wow, this is what a challenging weekend for this group.
Yeah, point leaders. Ooh,
Big crunch there. There's major damage to the front end. Then you can see all the fluid coming out.
Yeah, it's Randy Mueller in the Epic Motorsports entry. He just took over. Oh, look at this. Yeah, and 46 as well. Patrick Byrne had just taken over the helm of that car. And yeah, it's Fosnot. Boy, they got a stop done, and it was Fosnot leading.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
He snuck it. They got a stop done, and they came out of the pits, and they were a good 3-4 seconds clear.
Randy Mueller leads currently the East Am drivers class. See Patrick Byrne there hopping over the Armco barrier. So Sean Gibbons currently in second with the TRG group. Potential for him to take advantage here with them out of the going.
Yeah, this is going to be a protracted yellow, I think. And you take a look at the possibilities here. You never like to see any kind of a interruption of a race with a caution, but it's just a simple fact that it does help some and hurt others. And thinking about that number 16 Autotechnic BMW with Chris Wilson behind the wheel. This caution they pack up, he is a guy with great pace.
It's going to be a big cleanup here.
Yeah, it sure is. Travis, Byrne, Mueller, and Safronis, had they just been able to stay on the lead lap, he would have something to do here, but they went down a lap before that pit stop unfolded. Under a full course caution here at Watkins Glen, you see the number 3 of Randy Mueller had just taken over from James Clay in the Epic BMW, and there's the number 46. That's the NOLA Sport Porsche, and here's what may have happened, Cal.
Side by side here coming into turn 10. And just get touched and turned at that critical point. Not sure if Randy moved over on Patrick a little bit there, but big impact.
Yeah. It almost looked like Randy thought he had cleared
Yes.
Patrick and was just shifting over to set up for that corner. But he got into the barriers pretty good on that side. It looked like Patrick went across to the other side. And now the field needs to tiptoe through here.
Yeah, this is really crucial that you don't pick up any debris and cut down a tire.
Of course, right before this unfolded, we saw the 47 NOLA Sport car of Travis with a left rear issue. So not a good post-pit window moment here for NOLA Sport.
Right. I believe Travis went down a lap. Oh, he's still making his way back. So
he's
yeah,
trying to get to the
definitely down
pits.
the lap,
So, yeah.
Just looking at timing and scoring, trying to see if this was going to save him from going down a lap. That's just taking a long time to get that car back to pit lane.
All right. Obviously some coolant coming out of fluids out of the front of this Epic car. And the emergency crews here making sure it doesn't get out farther on track, and then they'll start working on the cleanup. And as we're watching this and we sit under this full course caution, during that pit stop window, we saw the Park Place Volt Lighting Porsche come in and do some tire changes. That's not usual in this category. Ryan, what's the story?
Well, we knew yesterday that was something that the Park Place team was considering. Mike Johnson's the guy behind the strategy for this team. So take us through the decision to change a couple of tires during your pit stop.
Well, yesterday we had that pretty early yellow, so we didn't think it would make sense. We were worried about maybe, if you make a mistake or something like that, there's the potential for a penalty. And today, with as long as it went, and then you had a couple of failures right before that yellow, and maybe even the cause of this yellow, we knew that it would be the safe and smart thing to do, and we have plenty of time to get it done. And yesterday, even at the end of the race with Trent, we had a pretty good-sized blister on that inner sidewall. And, right now we're really focused on trying to do the best we can in the SprintX East Pro-Am Championship. And we threw away some wins earlier in the year, and we've made a real strong dedication that that's what we're going to do. We're not throwing away any more wins.
Most teams are not changing tires. Is that something that your team has rehearsed so that you were ready when the situation came up?
Well, we race in another series where we're pretty used to doing 4 tire stops once or twice a race, so we're pretty good at it. But we spent a lot of time all weekend working on just a 2 tire stop. Some cars are having problems with the right sides, believe it or not, but we're really struggling with the left rear. And as I said, I think 2 other cars just had failures. So for us, it was really kind of a no-brainer decision to make. And yeah, we practiced it, and we had to work a little harder and to make sure we got all of our lug nuts back and our hoses back because we're not used to that. But yeah, we trained hard to do it, and that's what we're doing, and hopefully we'll get a good result.
How well positioned is Allen to get the result that you're looking for?
Well, right now we're first in class, which is our ultimate goal. We're second overall, but there's been a lot of issues with. There's a very hard rule where you're not allowed to be over the line, person or equipment, in front of a car or behind a car during a pit stop. The 34 car blatantly had someone standing right in front of the car at that one and only pit stop. Yesterday they did the same thing. They weren't penalized. Today they did it with the official's arm right around them as they did it, saying, "We told you not to do that like 5 seconds ago, and here you just did it." So we'll have to see what the officials decide.
All right, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mike thinks through every conceivable scenario, and as he said, we felt we threw away a couple of races. We're stopping that. What do we need to do to make that happen? And then they plan for it.
Yeah, and you got to think about the what ifs. I mean,
yeah.
To me, it's a no-brainer. If the series are allowing you to do it with no penalty, and you're allowed to do it during this mandatory stop, you got fresher rubber.
Yeah, and you can get
Take
it done
the
cleanly.
safety aspect out of it, whether you're concerned about maybe a tire having an issue, you're going to have better grip.
Yeah, period. Yep. And if you can get it done in that 75-second window, why not? Yeah, I think that, absolutely. So here's the start of what happened here, Cal.
He's coming off side by side here. Yeah, Randy just starts to move over. I think he felt that he was clear, like you said, and just touched at the absolutely wrong point.
That's one of those things when that guy disappears out of your window. Doesn't necessarily quite mean that you've completely cleared him. And so the cleanup continues, and the field very gingerly working their way through the incident scene as we are now coming up on 16.5 minutes left in this one.
Ironically, Greg actually won a race here in former Atlantic and had a similar contact with my teammate, same part of the racetrack, on the last lap.
Is that right?
We took each other out. He actually broke his ankle, came flying across the nose of my car, and he did the same thing. My car was overheating. He was coming by me and just tried to come over on line before he cleared me, and went up and over and into the Armco. The Armco is so close there, it's an immediate impact.
Oh, absolutely.
Fortunately, I was able to just hobble the car over the line and park it, but it's a long time ago.
Yeah. All right, Andrew Davis. Of course, it turned over to Jason Bell, and now Bell back in pit lane.
Going to see a tire change here, left rear.
Yep. Once again, if if it's okay to do it, you're under caution. You're going to lose some track position, but probably won't go down a lap. Looks like he's having a little problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the air cylinder was turned on.
Yeah. Can't get that. There it goes.
Yeah.
As I said, he came into the pits, I think, at the time in the 14th spot. He's going to lose a little. Uh-oh, is this Frank Gannett? Remember, Whitmer had been slowing down significantly.
Yeah, I wonder if he did some kind of reset there.
I wonder, yeah, or whether they had just asked him to please wait. They were taking care of something that was right in the line. But at any rate, the cleanup continues here at Watkins Glen. Hopefully we'll be able to get back and have some green flag running to the finish of this one, currently being led by the number 34 Murillo. Mercedes in the hands of Matt Fosnot. Take a look at the lineup now. Fosnot over Brynjolfsson, both very quick. Quinlan, who's shown some pretty decent speed as of late. Raphael, he and Mackler have a win in category this year. Ramsey, what a great story for the 592, the Team EXR by Prima. Team Alex Prima had that car moving up smartly, and after all the developments here, they find themselves right smack dab up in the top 5. And then Dynan, who I think he's going to be in this group. He's one of the quick drivers, I think, in that sharp end of things. Ben Anderson's certainly very quick. It's going to be fun. And then I really think we have to keep an eye on the car that currently sits 11th right now with Chris Wilson.
I think the other thing that's going to be fascinating, depending on how much green flag running we get, is how the points shake up here.
Yes.
Overall, Brynjolfsson currently leading. Raphael second, who's second in the points, and our championship leaders might down in 8th in class.
Yep.
Travis
Yeah,
Hart combination have a 20-point lead. That could be gone tonight.
Yeah, it's a really, really good point here. And right now, the top 3 circulating around the track are all class point leaders. Vosnot and Shimshak lead in the Eastern Am SprintX Championship. Brynjolfsson certainly with Trent Hinman in the Eastern Pro-Am Championship. Quinlan and Leafuge lead in the National Pro-Am Championship. And then back in the 9th spot right now is Preston Calvert, who along with Keegan leads in the Am National Championship.
Yeah, I got the 2 classes mixed up. There's Quinlan who's leading, so they're going to have a big day looking for their 5th win out of 7. They won 4 of the last 6.
Yeah,
in Leafuge, so.
And that's something of interest too. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we talked about Calvert right now sitting 9th, leading in the AM Championship with Keegan, but Wilson is 2nd in the AM Championship with John Allen, and he's 11th. And so that has some pretty big implications in terms of those points. Looks like the cleanup is starting to wrap up here, so hopefully we'll get some green flag running in. They said the lights will go out somewhere between the toe and the heel of the boot on the safety car as an indicator. But it's, as you said, 3.4 miles here, so it's a long enough lap that I think by the time the cars get into that area of the track, that cleanup area might be literally cleaned up, and we might be able to get back to it here. It'll be a shootout.
Yeah, it's a longish lap, so it gives the crews plenty of time. And we should be looking about 8 to 9 minutes on the board to get to work with for green flag action. Lots of championship implications as things are tightening up. 4 rounds to go, and the majority of the championship, other than the East, we only got 2 rounds after this one at Road America. So this is an important weekend to set up for Road America in 3 weeks' time.
Well, they said that where Mueller nosed into the barrier, it may need a quick repair, but they get this done pretty quickly too with the tools they have.
Yeah, they'll use a chain to the front end of that safety truck. It's like they put like a pin, a fork over those girders behind to kind of pull this straight.
And Gannett in and having a long chat with the G3 Ian Lacey racing crew.
Yeah, I really feel the Wim is starting to get a technical issue right before he hit pit lane here today, and
like
Frank's still experiencing the problem. Again, Whitmer, the championship leader, coming in.
Well, speaking of that, I think Ryan may have an answer for us.
Yes, that's true. Just before we went yellow, actually, I had a chance to chat briefly with Carl Whitmer, and he said at that time they really didn't know exactly what the problem was, but there was a problem, as you speculated. So the plan at the time was just to keep on running if they possibly could, but it looks like that problem might have popped back up again as the car is in pit lane now. So you're spot on. There was something happening internally, but beyond that, they really couldn't tell me or wouldn't tell me what was going on with that Mustang.
All right, thanks very much. At least confirmation that there indeed was some sort of an issue. It was just weird the way that we suddenly saw Carl just backpedaling after having been so racy. I think this, we may lose another lap here, Cal, with that guardrail repair.
Yes.
That's unfortunate.
One thing that's kind of stayed away is the threat of rain here.
Yeah, this has been nice.
Wasn't the best start of the day, and we're driving in early this morning, and forecast certainly had a decent chance of some showers, but so far so good in terms of the racing.
It's been nice. It looks like it's clouding up just a little bit, but hopefully that's all it does. I'll tell you, these safety crews here, they put in some serious work. And again, nice opportunity for us to be able to give a shout out to all the volunteers, as well as, you know, the safety crews. That's paid personnel from the track, or whether it's from the series, but corner workers around the track, the corner marshals, the course marshals, and lots of different personnel throughout the paddock. Of even a big pro weekend like this, they're volunteers. You know, put on an event like this without a great cadre of volunteers that they're out there, and whatever the weather is, they endure it because they love it. There's a good look at some of the corner crews here. Big thanks to all of them, so we sure appreciate it. All right, checker is being thrown early here at Watkins Glen. They determined the guardrail cleanup would take longer than the time left in the race, and with that, Matt Fosnot and Christian Shimshak get the win. Brynjolfsson and Trent Hindman are going to get the class win, but finish second overall. Quinlan, that's a biggie here with Leafouche getting that win. But to me, I think one of the more frustrated teams in the paddock right now is going to be that yellow Park Place Porsche. They had two fresh tires on the left side of that car and really thought they had something here. And it's just the swings and arrows of racing fortune sometimes.
But remember their agenda. Michael John said we just got to focus on the class championship.
True
There's
enough.
only 2 rounds to go, and there's a big day for them.
Yep. And I think another team that might be not too displeased with this development is that number 51 Panos outfit of Calvert and Keegan, because Wilson is so quick, and Preston is certainly a stout driver, but Wilson is very fast. And with this early checker, that Panos program wins their class as well.
I think the big shame is for all the drivers in the cars right
Yes.
now. They really didn't get to see much action here today, so that's the disappointment for the fans and for us as well. Actually, we'd love to have seen this one go green and have a thrilling finish.
I think it would have been exactly that for sure. Yeah, it's too bad. But, you know, one thing that we've come to see over the season, whether it's in the Western Championship with Shimshak and Murillo, or the Eastern Championship with Shimshak and Fosnot, these guys just tend to run at the front, and more often than not, you find them on the top step of that podium. So a great day for them, certainly. And, again, McAleer and Raphael finished 4th overall, and rounding up the top 5, Ramsey and Prima. Great job there, and that gives them 2nd in the National Pro-Am class. All right, so they're going to enjoy this cool-down lap, albeit behind a safety car. That's one thing about some of these races is they always throw you some interesting wrinkles, don't they?
They certainly do. That's why track position is so important. You never know when something's going to happen like this. Good execution on the pit stop has got the Murillo Racing Mercedes AMG to the front. And, they take the win today.
Absolutely, and of course Dynan and Foley, they're come home with a pretty solid position. 6th overall, 3rd in the National Pro-Am Championship, 4th in National Pro-Am. A good showing by the Ginetta from Dexter Racing of Warren Dexter and Ben Anderson. And Balo and Dyer end up 5th in the National Pro-Am Championship. So some good stuff unfolding for a lot of these teams. Here we go, working up through the incident scene. And I think that's just smart. You know, one of the things when it becomes very clear that to get the racetrack back to safe race condition is going to exceed the likely exceed that time of left of an event. Last thing you need is cars running through an area where you got people out on the track working. And you know, it's frustrating sometimes, but it's always the smart move because it's the safest move, and that's what we try and always keep an eye on here. So, well, the car's going to be funneling down into pit lane. And your overall and class winner from Murillo Racing, the Mercedes of Matt Fosnad, who finishes, and Chris Shimshak bring that car down into pit lane. Here's Alan Brynjolfsson, who brings his 2nd place overall, but class-winning Eastern Pro-Am car. Shares with Trent Hinman down in as well. Behind him, Sean Quinlan is bringing their class-winning National Pro-Am car down into the pit lane that he shares with Greg Leafouge and the rest of the field as well. But for Matt, he didn't get a lot of laps at speed, but boy, that crew executed a wickedly quick pit stop, and Ryan, it paid off.
It sure did. I don't think Matt's going to be too bummed out that you didn't get as many laps at speed as maybe you would like. The end result, that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, the end result's obviously really, really good. I want to thank SRO.
We lost your mic.
All right, obviously a little technical issue right there, and we'll try and get that working as quick as we can. There's Alan Brynjolfsson, who crawls out, and again, he's got that smile on his face. The smile is for it being a class win, and as Michael Johnson had alluded to, that was their mission. We don't want to throw away class wins doing anything else, but I think Brynjolfsson really thought it would be fun to see what would happen with those 2 fresh left side tires. And then class winners here, Greg Leafouge and Sean Quinlan.
Yeah, some big winners here, some big movers and shakers in the championship as well. Brynjolfsson and Hinman, they sweep. That's going to tighten things up at the top, and Whitmer's going to suffer here with that problem for the Mustang late in the going.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get back to Ryan.
Well, Matt, probably not as much time behind the wheel as you would have liked in that race, but the end result, that's what you're here for, the overall wins.
Yeah, the wins pretty sweet. They're fun. Winning overall is always a treat. I want to thank SRO and Pirelli and Murillo and AMG for the great car, and of course Christian Shimshak's great first stint. I just kind of brought it home sitting on the couch. You know, would have loved to run some racing laps there, but you know,
Yeah,
got to take them when you can get them.
Well, you've been doing a lot of sitting on the couch in between races. There was a long layoff for you guys. So how nice was it to get back in the swing of things and to cap it off with a happy memory like this one?
Yeah, I mean, I've been out of the car for 90 days, so to be able to come back here and get up to speed quick. You know, I'm familiar with WATKINS GLEN, and when you have a great teammate like Christian showing you the way, yeah, it's great to get it done and drive great laps, and it's fantastic.
Congratulations, guys. We'll see you at Road America.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
What an athlete. He's barely sweating, Greg.
Yeah. Absolutely. The training that they put in is remarkable. But
Pays off on days like this.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. A couple of minutes in the car. But I loved how he put it. I just kicked back in the sofa for this one pretty much. But here's a look at the results. And again, a lot of credit for these finishes going to those starting drivers in these cars that had them so beautifully placed. You know, as you said, its track position is massive.
It is, and certainly rewards everyone who had a good, strong first half, and certainly the crews who executed the pit stops. We've seen those pit stop delta times a lot tighter here in the second half of the season.
All right, with that, let's get back down to Ryan.
Well, second overall, but a class win for Alan Brynjolfsson. You shared car, of course, Trent Hindman. And I have to wonder what you're wondering, what might have been with a couple of fresh tires thanks to some Mike Johnson strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I was really looking forward to having a restart. I knew we had fresh tires. The car is great. The Porsche loves the cold weather. We were in great position. I love battling with Matt Fascinat, so I was really looking forward to a battle. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So we still got to be happy with 4 podiums in 4 races this weekend. It's been a great points weekend for us.
Mike always seems to dig up some interesting strategy. Does it even surprise you anymore when he comes up with clever ploys like these?
I used to ask him, and what's he doing? And I've learned just to say, whatever you say, Mike.
That's a good strategy. I think we'd do the same. Congratulations. We'll see you at the next one.
Great. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep, savvy for Alan to just, after what Mike's achieved over the years as a strategist and team manager and the like, to just go, okay, that's fine. Well, we go back, take a look at some highlights. Carl Whitmer just leapt away at the front. Got an immediate attack in the early going here from that red-white Porsche, the RS1 entry of Halen, but was able to fend him off for a fair amount, but then Halen made the move. Took one down in deep here, but look at Whitmer just roll speed around the outside. They did this a couple times.
They did. There's some really good hard racing there, but just good respect. Kept it clean.
And then watch this move by McAleer, Cal. You really liked how decisive it was.
Oh, it was late. It surprised Trent Hindman. He had no opportunity to close the door there, and Stephen McAleer was on a charge. In this moment, I'm not sure if there was a cut-down tire, but either way, Jan Halen went for a ride there and was out from the lead.
Yeah, big lead he had built up, and then this moment, which resulted in the race ending early, is Randy Mueller thought he had cleared the number 46 NOLA Sport car of Patrick Byrne, and it ended up with a long fix and ultimately a finish under caution and a win for the Murillo Mercedes.